Man, guys, let me just say, I think we had a very good episode of Ranking of Kings today. I think we had a great episode, even. And I'm doing something a little different today, as you can see. I have my screen showing a bit because I wanted to highlight a really important scene in the episode, Not just for our characters, but I think as for the series as a whole. But before we get into that, welcome back to the channel, guys. We have episode 14 of Ranking of Kings. And as I was saying, it was a very good episode. We had some very touching scenes in this, and we had some development for some characters that were a long time in the making. So let's just get into it, because there's a decent amount to talk about. Alright. Our episode begins with kind of the ending of the last episode, with the showdown between Queen Hiling and Maranjo. And to say that things are not going good for Queen Hiling and dorshe is kind of an understatement. They put up a hell of a fight in the last episode, but they are severely outnumbered, and the enemies they're fighting are powerful, It's not something that dorshe can handle on his own. And we see that. We kind of see a bit of his final stand in this episode. I know you can see him standing there, but we'll get to that. But we see a bit of his final stand and his resolve that no matter what happens, he has to try to get Queen Hiling out of there. Which is commendable, man. Dorshe is such a great character. I've said that multiple times already, but in previous episodes, but he really is such a great character. He's a very loyal character, He's been through thick and thin with Hiling and all that. And to see that he would go so far to save her is very commendable. But he's on his final legs, and he is quite literally about to die. That is until our snake here, our two-headed snake, Matsumata, actually comes and saves them. And Hiling is shocked, She's like, you're the snake that I saved years ago? Huh. Who'd have thought compassion would come back and help us later in life? Yeah, he actually saves them from the beasts. He takes out all the beasts. But he is taken out by the giant criminal who's still there, who is just running amok throughout the entire fight. He's by far the biggest enemy here, and he's too much for them to handle. He takes, I wrote his name down, Mitsumata, out fairly easily, honestly. And everything seems lost, Dorshe is down for the count. Hiling is able to heal him at the expense of all of her potions that restore her healing abilities. At the expense of all those. She's able to heal him, but he's still not in fighting condition. As you can see, look at this man. Look at this man standing there. He's not in fighting condition. He lost his leg, and he lost his eye. He's in no shape to fight, and he is not going to get there in time. That is until our boy Bojji finally shows up. And we get to see some results of his training. And man, Bojji is broken now. He really is broken. We even get a breakdown of his abilities, which we'll go over in a bit. But Bojji is kind of broken now, if you really sit down and think about it, with what he can do. He not only... Alright, we'll get into the breakdown now, actually, because I feel like it's relevant. He actually is able to knock out the giant for a second. And we get a little flashback scene of Despa explaining to Bojji about, what was it, atoms? It was molecules, my bad, not atoms. And he asked Bojji, Bojji, can you break this diamond? And Bojji says no. But then Despa explains that everything is made up of all of these little things inside, and that they're strengthened together. Yeah, he explains to him about matter. If you're looking while I'm looking over, Notepad Kun makes an appearance yet again. The handiest person here. But he explains to Bojji about matter, and that how everything in this world is made up of matter. Which is true. We got a little science lesson in this episode. Where's Bill Nye when you need him? But no, it's true. And he explains to him that everything in this world is made of matter. And it's all tightly woven together. The stronger that something is, the more tightly knitted the matter inside of it is. But then he explains to him that every single thing has certain spots in it that are not as tightly woven together and can make anything break easily. So when I thought of that, I immediately thought of Bojji's ability, because you see, his sword is so thin, and his ability to be able to find anything's weak point is kind of broken, because we see Despa break that diamond with ease. So if you apply that to Bojji's ability, like, he quite literally is probably the strongest man in the world right now. To be able to find the weak spot of anything is scary, honestly. It doesn't matter how strong the person is you're fighting or anything like that. If you can find its weak point, you can shatter that. And we get a perfect demonstration of that in this episode when he breaks the giant's hammer. He shatters it with one poke of his sword, which is crazy that he's able to do something like that. And then he even just pokes him in the foot one time, and it incapacitates him. And they're able to subdue him. And Bojji is broken now. That is an incredible ability. So I don't know if he's able to see on like a subatomic level, to be able to see the matter, but just that concept alone, I find very interesting, honestly. It's a very interesting power. He's not like, oh, I'm super strong, or I can go super fast, or I got these amazing abilities. No. I mean, he does, but no, it's just the fact that he can find the weak points of anything makes him a very dangerous person indeed. Despa even says in the previous episode that, yes, he's a very kind person, but with this ability, he's able to kill people with ease. And that's kind of scary. So it's a good thing that Bojji has good people around him, man, if you really think about it. But now we get into the heart of this episode, which they've subdued the giant. He's knocked out, and Bojji begs Hiling to heal Mitsumata, which he does, of course, as you can clearly see. And we have a nice little touching moment of her finally accepting him for who he is. And it's really been building up throughout the whole show, if you think about it. Their relationship. We've seen that she's so stern and kind of mean to him, but we finally understand that she cares deeply for him. And in this episode, I feel like their feelings finally were conveyed to each other, just exactly how they feel. As you can see in this scene, it was very heartwarming, honestly, and much deserved. I feel like we've been building to this for the whole show, basically, so far. And they have a very touching heart-to-heart. And actually, funny enough, we see in this scene, I actually completely forgot about this, but Kage and Hiling actually have never met. They've never spoken, let alone even met with each other. So she confronts him right away, like, who are you to my son? Who are you to Bojji? And he explains that he's a companion to him. And she actually gets pissed, because she's like, I sense evil from you. Like, we're going to have to talk about this later. Oh, blah, blah, blah. You know how she is. And Kage actually gets mad, because it's revealed that he saved Bojji so many times. Like, if anyone is in that kid's corner, it is Kage. He has been there for him when literally no one else was, including herself. And she accepts Kage and holds a great deal of respect for him, saying, watch out for Bojji. And then she starts explaining to Bojji that he needs to start holding himself in higher regard. And he should start treating himself with the proper respect that he deserves, because he is a king after all. He can't be friends with these people. He is a king. And we see that firsthand, actually, when the ogre, the giant, actually breaks out of his bindings, but instead of attacking them, he actually recognizes Bojji's strength, and he pledges his loyalty to Bojji, which, Very interesting, honestly. What a great person to have in your corner, honestly, especially in a situation like this. It's just, it really shows that people are finally starting to acknowledge him. And I feel that's really heartwarming. We've built up to it for the whole series, and it's finally coming to fruition. And it's just really nice. Because she tells Bojji to hold himself in a higher regard, you know? And I feel like it's needed, you know? He needs that confidence boost right now. Now, I want to talk about this scene real quick because it confused me for a second when I watched it, I'll be honest. I was freaking out like, wait a minute, did this happen? But no, we actually get a flashback scene in the episode showcasing a past emergency that happened to the kingdom. And we see that Bojji is trying his best to help because you see the town's on fire and everyone's trying to put the fire out. And we see him just carrying this little cup of water everywhere, here and there. And it's not really doing too much, honestly. But he's trying his damnedest to help people. And we see that Daida, being the douchebag that he is, just throws him to the ground and says, get out of the way, you're not helping anyone. You're just screwing everything up. And then we actually see King Boss take over and just completely put the fire out at once. And when I saw this, I was like, wait a minute, did they separate? But no, it's a flashback scene. And it really showcases, I feel like the point of the scene is to really showcase Bojji's despair at his weakness, you know, that he wants to be helpful to everyone, but he just isn't with how he was. And I feel like Hiling saw that from an early age, which makes this scene where their feelings are finally getting through to each other all the more touching. And like I said, it was just a really great episode for character development in this series, and not just Bojji's. So I quite liked it. But let's transition to the next scene now. Let's go to the next scene. Yes, we see King Desha again. And he's clearly up to something. Because we see that he is fully aware of what's happening in the kingdom. And it looks like he has his forces going something. Because we transition from seeing him saying, I'm ready, to the kingdom where the guard captain is fighting Ouken. And they're having a hell of a time. Ouken is just eviscerating all of them. The guard captain's able to land a blow on him, cutting his hand off, but he then realizes all his men around him are dead, and he's the only one standing. And Ouken and Ouken just regenerates his whole hand back. And it seems like this is the end of the guard captain. But then King Desha's plan actually enacts, and he sends a giant lightning bolt over and incapacitates Ouken, essentially knocking him out. He is out for the count for now. And it's revealed that despa was actually there the whole time planning this with Desha. And once they subdue him, we learn a little bit about Ouken, actually. Very interesting stuff, honestly, that he is immortal. He's actually immortal, which is quite interesting because in this series you would think a concept like that would not be a thing, but no, he is immortal. And despa explains what happened to him because we see in a little flashback that he used to be a very kind man that would always put others above himself. But despa starts to explain that the price of immortality is losing yourself. Losing who you are, losing your soul and everything you stood for. And now he's just the empty husk of a man. Because as humans, we have evil within us, but we make offspring to offset that and to pass along our good traits down and to keep us human. You know, and I found that concept very interesting, honestly. That he would just lose his humanity all of a sudden. And how did he become immortal, for instance? I hope we get that answered, but he is indeed Desha's son that we've noticed. They call him Prince and all that. In our previous episode, I mentioned that. He is indeed their son. And we also find out that Desha's real plan, his real plan this entire time, was to go after Moranjo. because maybe she has the ability to fix Ouken in some way, shape, or form. But we find out that's his real end goal, is to take her out. And we see that at the end of the episode where they actually discover the entrance to the underworld. Not the place under the kingdom where they call the underworld, the actual entrance to the underworld, where I assume Hokuro and Domas are heading to now. So it really makes me believe, like, what is his end goal here? You know, like, what is he planning to do? And how does going there affect Miranjo? You know? It's kind of a head scratcher, but I assume we will figure that out in later episodes. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments how you felt about this episode. I thought it was a very warranted episode, if you think about it, you know? I feel like it's something the series needed. We needed the heart-to-heart moment that we got in today's episode, you know? We've built up to it the whole time, and just to see it finally happening just puts a smile to your face, you know? And what more can I ask for? You know, this series just keeps getting better and better as it goes on. And that's not something you can say with every show. That is not something you can say with many series at all, honestly. But this show just continues to be quality, and we got a very touching moment in this episode. So let me know your thoughts on it down below. And are you excited for the next episode? Because I am. Because now that we got this and Bojji's finally getting the recognition that he deserves, like, we can only go up from here, you know? Things can only get better, I would imagine. So I'm very curious to see where we go from here. You know, and that flashback scene definitely threw me off. So, and it was quite interesting, you know. We saw a little bit of Daida's perspective too on how he views the king. I'm not sure, but we'll eventually get into that, I assume, because we actually did get a scene previously in this episode that I didn't mention until now, but I feel like it's important that Hiling actually calls out to Boss, and Boss wakes up for a second. He's like, and he basically breaks out of the prison cell. He breaks out of his restraints. He busts open the door. But then he gets a thought of what looks to be Miranjo in the past. And he stops himself. And he sits back down. So I'm very curious to know why. He's clearly a man that cares about the people around him, but there's something stopping him from being the man that we think he is. And apparently everything is revolving around Miranjo. Every single thing is apparently revolving around her. So I'm very curious to get more into her backstory. I very much am, because she seems to be the key to everything so far. So hopefully our next couple episodes will dive into that, because it's very interesting, honestly. I'd like to see where this goes. But I think that'll be it for today's episode, guys. You know, we had a great little heartwarming episode today. One very needed. And I only see the series going up from here, you know? It can't get worse. If this series suddenly started to get, like, really bad towards the end, I'd be shocked. I'd actually be shocked. Because they've delivered quality after quality every episode. So I have zero doubt in my mind that the show will continue to stay quality. But again, let me know in the comments what you thought about that. Yeah, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And, yeah, just deuces, and have a great day. I'll see ya.